Democrats Schiff and Chuck Schumer are desperate to block Trump's release of the controversial FISA Memo. Deep state puppets Schiff and Chuck Schumer are using all their tricks, trying to stop the release of the FISA Memo to the American public. Why are they trying to hide the FISA Memo from you? What could be in the FISA Memo that has them running so scared?
All right, joining us now with reaction to tonight's opening monologue, Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz, Fox News contributor Sarah Carter, and Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett. I have a source, Matt, that actually suggested to me that is as shocking as this four-page memo is going to be, the foundational information by which it was written, it's going to come on the heels of it, and it's going to be like a slow drip. There are those that are saying, release it all. Would that be a good idea?
That's what so many of us have called for. We believe the memo should be released and that supporting documentation that doesn't reveal sources or methods should also be available for the American people to review. But it's important to note, Sean, this memo lays out facts. These are not opinions. This is not conjecture. These are facts assembled by the Intelligence Committee staff and then presented to the members of that committee. I have every confidence that this will persuade the American people that we've got to make major changes in not only the people that are currently in some of these agencies of government, but also in the regulatory structure so that this type of behavior never happens again.
But if it's a document that fueled an intelligence investigation during a political campaign that's unverified, isn't that basically saying in Devin Nunes' statement that the dossier bought and paid for by Hillary was actually used to get a FISA warrant in an election year against an opposition party candidate? I think my reading comprehension is pretty good.
Well, Sean, as you know, to answer that question with particularity would violate the terms of our non-disclosure agreement. I can say that I believe that many of the issues that have been discussed in the public
square... You can confirm I have good reading comprehension skills? Can you confirm that?
Undoubtedly. You demonstrate them each and every night on television.
All right, Sarah Carter. What we see tonight, to me, is so transparent and obvious. Rod Rosenstein wants to look better. He's scared to death. And Peter Strzok wants to look better. Why he's even still working at the FBI is a mystery to me. But you have sources tonight, and you're breaking some new information.
That's right. I mean, it appears that there's a concerted effort on the part of the FBI, members of the intelligence community, and the Department of Justice to try to force the president to delay the release of the memo. And they're doing this in an effort to buy time, according to sources that I've spoken with, so that they can leak information to try to find a way to either discredit the memo or placate those members of the DOJ that don't want to see this released. Sean, they are terrified about the American people finding out what's in this memo because it does expose members of the DOJ, members of the FBI, and others violating. And it names names, and it actually shows extensive FISA abuse. This needs to be made public. The American people have a right to see this, and the intelligence people I've spoken with and U.S. officials who are familiar with this memo say this memo in no way violates the intelligence community's standards as far as disclosing anything that would be related to national security.
Let me
Sean,
go to Greg Jarrett. Greg, I think you have equally...
Let me interrupt right there, Sean. If people are trying to convince the president not to release this memo, they're not going to be successful. He said on the floor last night when Congressman Jeff Duncan was pressing him that he was going to release it, and he said, imagine what would happen if we didn't. So he knows the American people are demanding it.
Greg Jarrett, I'm reading Devin Nunes' memo back in response to the FBI. Rod Rosenstein, remember, just within hours, they were looking for these documents for a year. And just hours before the deadline, it was Rosenstein going, begging, pleading with Paul Ryan. Don't release it. The same thing is going on today about the memo here. I assume you have the same reading comprehension skills that I do.
Right.
And what I'm reading is that the dossier was used, at least in part, to get a FISA warrant to spy on an opposition party candidate in an election year. And that dossier was full of Russian lies paid for by Hillary.
And that would be a crime called deprivation of rights under color of law, punishable by 10 years. You can't use a false document to spy on somebody.
Or unverified, but it is false.
And if they alter the 302 forms, the witness forms, well, that's obstruction of justice. Look, Rosenstein and the FBI must think everybody in America is really stupid, that they're compounding their felony by trying to cover it up. At first, the pretense of, oh, you're going to reveal sources and methods. They've now dispensed with that fiction, and now they're saying, well, it's omissions. Well, they're the ones who are responsible for the omissions. They've been trying to obstruct a legitimate investigation by Congressman Gates and others on Capitol Hill, which have oversight responsibility under the Constitution.
Sarah Carter, let's talk about the altering of the 302s, because this came up in the McCabe firing. This is beyond serious. You have reporting on this. Can you share it tonight?
Well, what we know is this, and what I know is this. I've spoken to a number of sources who have said that McCabe had actually asked members of the FBI, an FBI official, actually, to alter the 302. Whether the 302s, those are the witness interviews that the FBI conducts with the witnesses.
And who did they want to alter?
Well, I don't want to talk about that just yet until we verify it, but there was one person in particular that they believe McCabe had asked the FBI agents to alter the 302s. And I think this is significant. It doesn't mean that they altered the 302s, but even the fact that if they were asked, allegedly, if this actually happened, that is a huge violation, Sean. And it's something that they're going to be investigating.
Because we're running out of time, what you're saying is, assuming we got the memo tomorrow, that means the day after, and that means next week and the week after, that we're going to find even more abuse than what it is that I'm talking about, right?
Oh, absolutely. And another very important question here is, when the warrant was issued, who kept reauthorizing the warrant over and over again?
Was it Rod Rosenstein?
There is a lot of discussion that it was Rod Rosenstein who kept reauthorizing the warrants based on faulty information.
Gates, wait a minute. That would mean Rod Rosenstein, the guy that appointed the special counsel Mueller, could have extended a FISA warrant without asking you to reveal anything. Let's say that that's true. Doesn't that mean that Robert Mueller's investigation was predicated on false information based on a false FISA warrant?
Sean, this is an issue where some Republicans disagree. I believe that the information in this memo absolutely proves that the Mueller investigation is built on a rotten foundation, that the entire Mueller probe is a fiction, that it never should have been started in the first place but for bad acts. Right. And so that's my view, and I would suspect that most of the American people would hold that view once they read this memo.
All right, release the memo.
Do you think the FISA memo should be released to the American public? Do the American people have a right to know what their elected officials are doing? Voice your opinion in the comments section below.